Guys and girls, hey y'all. Thanks for watching again, and really appreciate your time watching. Please do subscribe, give it a thumbs up so people can also see and learn from the things that I'm sharing here. I'm purely doing this for you and your benefit so that you and others can learn and benefit from what I'm doing. Learn from my experiences, whether I do the right thing, maybe not what you think is the best thing, or you at least learn what maybe does work or what kind of doesn't work. Just go ahead and share, subscribe, like, and that way you and others can also enjoy this video and other videos and see what I'm sharing to learn from it. All right, so I am in the process of, let me give you a little walkthrough. I'm in the process here of, on this new expedition truck, my new vehicle here, of doing a few things. I've got a gray water tank. Before I get the camper put on, I've got a few things to do. I'm putting in a gray water tank here. I've got a little heat shield, stainless heat shield down here, my stainless straps. This gray water tank is going to go in there. You just have to cut the fittings in or spin weld fittings in, drill and spin weld those in. I've had to do a little modification of these mounting brackets for this wire, which Mitsubishi puts these incredibly beefy brackets in here just simply to hold this wire. And so anyways, I had to bend those a little bit away to fit this 8-gallon gray water tank here. It's not a very big space, but the 8-water gray water tank fits perfectly right in here. So I'm taking advantage of the space here for that. Just had to do a little, again, just kind of a maneuvering of this wire around here, the bracket and stuff to hold that so it's out of the way. It's held properly away from the exhaust system. What it does connect into the exhaust system, but just make sure it's properly held away from that and from the water tank and so forth. So I've got that going on. I've got my custom little brackets here out of a structural fiberglass U-channel and L brackets or angle brackets that have been attached in the subframe. This is where my air compressor and initial air tank are going to be installed. Things that I'm thinking about while I'm installing this is that the air tank, of course, one, I can reach a pressure relief valve, I can reach a drain valve, I can also get to the pressure switch to wire that up and run that along the chassis rails here to activate the compressor on and off and run power to it. Also, the fiberglass U-channel is fantastic because, well, several things. It can't rust, it's very lightweight, but it's also not thermally or electrically conductive. So it's got a lot of benefits to it. Not that any of those are really absolutely critical, but the real benefit why I'm using it is because, well, two benefits. One is I have it, and the other one because it's also, it's even though it's incredibly strong, will isolate some of the vibration from the air compressor, and so from the subframe and from the chassis rails. And so this will, by being on the subframe then being isolated to the composite camper and isolated to the chassis rails, and with fiberglass connections mounted that the air compressor is mounted to, it's going to be very well insulated and isolated from that. So that's going to be great. I can still, in this place here, I'll be able to access the evaporative canister, the prop shaft and muffler and all these wire connectors and everything else. So that's pretty key. The breather here for the transfer case, which I slightly rerouted. It was basically mounted right here. And I just simply mounted it right over here. So it's at the same height. It's actually more accessible in the place it is here. And of course, with the gray water tank going in here, I had to make just a little more space so that is not only can fit, but also I can access the breather if I ever should need to. I've got a few things going on in here. I'm going to go into what's going on in here later in a future video. It's going to be really pretty cool what's going in here, but I'm adding more gray water capacity interconnected to the two tanks, of course an electronic drain valve just like I have in my Sprinter van, and then also extra fuel capacity and extra air capacity to fill up these big 37-inch by 13.5-inch wide tires. So that way I can fill those up a lot quicker. So I got some things going on all in there. So this is all a little bit torn apart in some ways. The exhaust, here's obviously the muffler. And the pipe used to come around here. It had a couple different bends and a little bit of a dip as it went underneath the chassis here. And above, of course, the rear axle and drive shaft for that. And then eventually it came out on this side, hanging from this hanger right here. What I did is cut that off and shortened it, as you can see, right there. And I did that for a couple reasons. One is because right here is where my air conditioner condenser is going to go. And so I need that space for that. Two is the way the exhaust was routed. EarthCruiser essentially did that in order to maintain the same number of bends as what Mitsubishi Fuso has. It's probably not very critical at all. This big V8 engine that's non-turbocharged, it's not induction, force induction anyway. So it really doesn't probably matter to have that back pressure slightly reduced with a couple little less bends and a couple feet of the end of the tailpipe taken out after the muffler. Everything else from the end of the muffler all the way up is exactly stock and will stay stock. So that's where the critical component. So one, I can fit my air conditioning condenser here. That's one key thing. The other key thing is that pipe actually had a bit of a dip in it. And that dip actually, of course, caused water to build up and, you know, from condensation and so forth, right? And so every time I'd start up this truck, big billow of steam would come out for the first 30 seconds or so of operation or minute. And so what I've done by taking that out, I now have no dip at all in there, and so I don't have all that steam and everything. I can't have that water build up and thus all that steam and stuff come out of the exhaust upon startup. So that's going to be an improvement. It also shortens the exhaust. It's out of the way. It's actually water can't get into if I were going to deep water crossing, and it could, but not while it's running. And whereas up here where it was coming out in front of the tire, water could get in a higher water crossing coming out right here where roughly where it was, and then it would dip down into that low spot in the exhaust, which would have caused, of course, water to fill up in there, and that would have been more problematic in a deep water crossing, which I've been known to go through deep water crossings. When I used to be in my old Land Rover days, Land Rover Defender 110, Range Rover, and Discovery 1 that I used to have, years ago, I've been in water in at least one of those Land Rovers up to, and these were stock Land Rovers, all the way up to over the hood. And I mean all the way up to the windshield. And they ran perfectly fine. They were gasoline engines on all of those. Yes, they were all gasoline engines. They all ran perfectly fine. 89, a 93 for the Defender 110, and a 98 for the Discovery 1. So even the electronics in those days were still fantastic, well potted, and they ran perfectly fine crossing rivers that were extremely deep, and like I said, water up to the windshield. No snorkels in any of those, just a good bow wave in the front to keep the water from getting ingested into the intake, as long as you keep moving to that river. So anyways, I don't want to get any water into the exhaust, so hence pulling up was a good benefit. The other benefit is by having the exhaust coming out right here in front of this tire, it heats up this tire, and EarthCruiser informed me that their customers are seeing about a 2 psi increase in the pressure of this tire compared to the other tires as the truck is under operation once heated up. And so obviously by not having the exhaust dumping out in front of a tire, that's not going to heat that up, and that'll be a benefit. So there's some things I'm doing there.
The upcoming video, I'm going to share more with you about my awesome compressed air system I'm installing into this Expedition truck chassis. So please do subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you very soon.